Parents, we keep a close watch on how the kids are growing. Who is actually teaching them? What are they getting exposed to? What kind of games they are playing? Are they hanging out with the right set of friends? We do all this because we know this influences can really affect how they are growing, how they will take decisions about themselves and others in the future. So with that context, I really wanted to bring a topic that is relevant in the artificial intelligence world as well. Are we really keeping a watch on how our algorithms are trained? Are we able to even understand how they are learning? So this brings us to the question of explainability and examinability into the algorithms that we build as data scientists. Cathy O'Neil, in her famous book called Weapons of Math Destruction, talks about this. It discusses about the social impact of algorithms. One of the highlights of that book is how we as data scientists should be responsibly creating algorithms. Because if you really look into it, yesterday's algorithms are business decisions in action today. If we extrapolate that, what we get is today the algorithms that you create immediately may go into a small data model and later into a proof of concept, grows into data science projects. But the cumulative effect of all this algorithm will be applied business decision that impacts human lives. Let's explore this topic a little further. The errors that these algorithms create. On one side, we have very obvious errors. They are celebrated errors. For example, the Apple-Google acquisition report that came out from Dow Jones. The story went like this. One morning, Dow Jones came up with this news announcing that Google was acquiring Apple for $9 billion. Second, this news sent waves in the stock market industry. The shares of Apple shot up. What really went behind was that algorithms like NLG, if you are aware of it, which stands for Natural Language Generation, are algorithms that combines multiple data inputs and generates a report and publishes it on news sites. So this was an algorithmic error where the machine actually got the input, which went into 2009-10 times, where Steve Jobs was discussing about an acquisition. So was Google's Larry Page. And at the same time, there were discussions around how if Apple gets acquired, the valuation would be. The discussions concluded saying, it might reach around $10 billion at that point of time. This algorithm somehow, it is clearly an error, got into a conclusion combining multiple inputs and even went on to publish a news report saying that Google to acquire Apple for $9 billion. So the point is, these kind of examples from big companies gets reported and we are aware of it. But the question is, what about those small errors that's not really getting the attention, but again cumulatively is leading up to a big error? These subtle glitches may go unnoticed in the beginning, but they have real big impact in the lives of people. So how do we practically solve these challenges? At least for the next near future, we see that there can be 3 practical steps to address this. So step number 1 is, even after the algorithm is implemented, it's so important to have a human being coupled with it at the time of business decision making. What does that mean? It means even if the model is successful, it's having high accuracy and other aspects are well taken care, it's important to monitor how the algorithm is learning over a period of time, which means at least for 3 to 5 years, or if for even significantly impactful decisions, it can be 7 to 10 years period. It's so fundamental, so important to keep a human being in the whole decision making process who constantly understands how the algorithm is evolving over the year. So on this point, I am reminded of the book written by Gary Kasparov years back. It's called Deep Thinking, where he discusses how the future of chess would evolve. He says, now it may not be a human versus computer. In that game, clearly computer is going to win with more data and better computers coming in place. But it could evolve like this, where a human being coupled with artificial intelligence, a grandmaster with a supercomputer plays against another grandmaster with artificial intelligence or supercomputer. Human intelligence augmented with artificial intelligence start competing with each other. That could be the future of chess, where the game rises to the next level. So that's step number 1. Couple AI with human expertise. So step number 2 is for each individual data scientist. Right now, if we ask a data scientist, how do you explain the result when these inputs are changing like this? Why is the prediction coming like this? Many a times, I'm not saying all, many a times they will say that's the way random forest works or neural network works. There is a black box effect of not able to explain what's happening behind the package they are using, behind the algorithm they are using. This should be changed. Your sense of understanding of the algorithm should be captured at each stage, documented and maintained. So important at this time for the data science community to come up with standard professional ways of capturing your understanding and learning of the algorithm as you build models. If the second step was more at an individual level, the last step should happen at a bigger scale. We should have frameworks at global, international level to put regulation on how algorithms are created. So in the area of data privacy and security, we see this happening through GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, happening from the European community. Some of you might be already undergoing the mandatory GDPR training if you are working with data. So similarly, in the world of algorithm creation, I envision such global standards being set in the coming decade. So ultimately, as a consultant in the data science industry, what I would like to see is a shift in culture from this automation, AI and automation, to AI and augmentation. That's a sensible path I see for the decade ahead, where AI can be used to create a better future world.